What is up, everybody? Ethan back this afternoon with this is a beer I've never tried. Saw this at Walmart. This is Outlaw Light. Kind of got a little glare there. Sorry about that. 105 calories. Got the kind of deer antlers on there. 4.2% ABV. So this is the same ABV, same ballpark as your Bud Light, your Miller Lite, your Coors Light. Best by October 30th, 2026, so well within the freshness date. 105 calories, slightly more calories than Bud Miller Coors Light. I believe they're 100 or 95, but don't quote me on that. Yeah, 4.2. I saw this at the store and I was like, Outlaw Light. I never heard of that. So I had to pick it up. I do like light beer. I don't buy it a lot. My go-to is Miller High Life, but occasionally I will buy light beer because it's, a little easier on the waistline, not quite as heavy and filling as some other beers can be. Let's go ahead and get a pour. And I will say this was, I want to say $9.84 for a 12 pack of 12 ounce cans, which I thought was a fantastic deal. That's a great deal these days for beer. So it poured a foamy white 3-finger head, very light golden appearance, ascending bubbles in the old red glass from Gatlinburg, Tennessee. In appearance, it looks a little lighter than like my go-to of Miller High Life. A little bit of sun gleaming through it. Let's go ahead and get an aroma. And beers like this, they don't have a lot of aroma, but right off the bat, I do get a little bready maltiness, maybe a slight touch of hop. Smells a little hoppier than your traditional light beers. Let's go ahead and try it. Cheers. Mm. So the flavor is very light, very crisp, borderline watery, dare I say. But there is a slight, and when I say slight, I mean slight hop note that Bud Miller Coors Light don't really have. I don't know if that's because it's slightly more calories, but it kind of reminds me of Milwaukee's Best Light, if you've ever had that, which is a slightly hoppier light beer. I feel that way, and I've heard other people say that too. So I'm not on an island in that opinion. It almost tastes like a Rolling Rock. It's not quite as thick bready flavor as Ham's Yingling Traditional or Yingling Premium, I should say, the old style, not the brown bottle, green bottle Yingling, the can Yingling Premium, and Miller High Life and Old Milwaukee. It's not quite as flavorful as those. Maybe kind of getting into the Rolling Rock, which is a 4.4% kind of realm. But for a light beer, this is tasty. And like I said, it has a little more hop note than most light beers. Not like a craft light beer would have, or a craft Pilsner like the one I tried a couple weeks ago. Not that much hoppiness, but more hoppiness than a Bud Light and Busch Light. Those are just pure water, really. And I like those beers. They're good for hot weather when you're cutting the grass or whatever, or outside in the heat, barbecuing. Fantastic beer for that. But this gives you a little more whilst still maintaining the light beer qualities. And they're out of Colorado. I didn't mention that. Sorry about that. Where in Colorado, you might ask? I do not know. But Tivoli Brewing Company So I was going to say Outlaw Brewing Company, but it's Tivoli Brewing Company in La Junta, Colorado. Lajunta. I believe the J is silent, so it would be La Junta, Colorado, wherever that is. I don't know if that's near Denver. I know Left Hand is out of Colorado. I believe, is it Sierra Nevada might have a brewery out there, but I've heard that Denver and Colorado in general is a good craft beer state. Would I get this again? I would, because at that price, $9 for a 12 pack, that's cheaper than Busch Light almost. And Busch Light's one of the cheapest light beers you could buy, much cheaper than Bud, Miller, and Coors Light for whatever reason. Probably because it doesn't sell as well. They're trying to, give it away basically by lowering the price. People like Bud Light, so you can charge more for it because the demand is higher. People are willing to pay more for a name that they feel has notoriety or renown. You know how people are. But this is a really good light beer. I'm gonna quit rambling and give it a score. We'll say overall 88 out of 100, B plus. But in the category of light beer, this gets like an A plus. And in a light beer category, I'd give this like a 96. But not a lot of flavor, kind of mild, kind of tame. But if that's something you like, this is a beer for you. I like it. I'm going to give it 88 officially for beer overall. Like if I was going to give a rate beer or Untapped review, I'd probably give an 88. But if I was just rating it in the light beer category, I'd give it like a 96. A little bit of a, delineation there. But yeah, Outlaw Light. Cheers and thank you for watching.